Alright, hey guys, and welcome back to another video. So, new setup, trying to green screen just to see how that works, see if I can possibly get a better background. But anyways, I probably need the phone. And this is the iPhone 15 Pro Max. And, well, here's a review. The good, the bad, let's hop right into it. Alright, now here's the thing. I'm gonna start with the good about this phone just because I think it's such a great piece of technology, and I think I just want to start the video off with a good message. So let's dive into some of, I believe, 5 of just some good things that I've noticed, just some things that I really do like about this phone. So let's start with number 1. Alright, now first off is the display, and there's obviously lots of great things about the display that I really love. Some more important than others. However, it's huge, right? Number 1, it is the 15 Pro Max, and so it is 6.7 inches of beauty, really. So it is a huge display. The bezels are absolutely tiny. The refresh rate is obviously, it's great just like usual. I did have an iPhone 13 Pro, so I am used to this thing, and of course it still is just as great as it always has been. And it's just bright. Like, this thing gets up to 2000 nits of peak brightness, peak outdoor brightness, I believe, is what it is. And yeah, it's bright. Like, I have zero issues whatsoever with the brightness of this display. Alright, so my next point here is actually battery life. Now, this is a 15 Pro Max, as I've mentioned, and I expected it to have pretty good battery life because it's big and it's newer, the battery's less degraded, stuff like that. But this genuinely is a great long 2-day, maybe 3-day battery life, depending on how light your usage is. Now, of course, this device, my battery health is at 100%, and I do just kind of let it do its own thing. I charge it once throughout the night, don't charge it throughout the day at all. It's on a 20-watt adapter, and so it just charges overnight. And I unplug it the next morning with it working just like it's supposed to. Now, a new feature that was kind of released with these phones is actually the ability to see your cycle count, as well as your manufacturer and first usage date of the battery, I'm pretty sure. This is like only an iPhone 15 lineup thing. They really could add it to other devices. I don't know why they haven't, but it is so far only on the iPhone 15s, and so I can kind of see, like, I have, I believe, 6 or 7 cycles on my battery. And it tells me when the battery was actually manufactured, as well as when it was first activated, which obviously was in December because I got this phone for Christmas. And so just like if you're a nerd like me and you like knowing tech numbers, I do like knowing tech numbers, so there you go. Alright, I can't talk about the iPhone 15 Pro Max, obviously, without the action button, and I gotta say, I don't use it that much. Now, I'm putting it under the good category because of the fact that it's still good. I still think it's a very useful and could have great useful features down in the line. If you look at the menu, just the menu of the ability to switch what the functions do, it's obviously a super over-engineered menu compared to the rest of the settings app, and I'm really hoping that sort of leads to potentially maybe like a big overhaul in OS, maybe with iOS 18 or something like that. Speaking of like the functions it can do, if you kind of just look through them, like, you can see, like, there's some basic ones like a flashlight or a camera. However, the really useful part of this button kind of comes in where you can like program different shortcuts or different types of apps to be open, which also falls under the category of shortcuts, and just stuff like that. Like, that's when you can really start to get some use out of it. I do wish it was like you could press it once for one thing, twice for another thing, 3 times for another thing, hold for something. But sadly, right now it is only one singular hold for one singular action. However, if you do program it to do certain things, you can actually program it to do a list of different actions. I've seen some great ones on YouTube. I do recommend checking some of those out. But overall, action button's awesome. I do wish it was a little bit lower, right? Like, it's a little bit on the high end, like, especially for this device. It's so tall, you kind of have to either use your other hand or kind of move your hand up there. But overall, I do like the action button quite a lot. Alright, so next thing is the cameras, and here's the thing, right? Cameras are an upgrade pretty much every year. they're not usually big, right? Usually camera upgrades are pretty small, pretty not that important typically. And this one's not much different. There's very little that has happened. However, I do want to mention there is a new 5x lens. I don't even remember I'll put it up on screen. The word that they used to build this thing, some fancy word. It's not on the top of my head right now. However, it is a 5x lens, which is the first in an iPhone, which I have found pretty useful. I do take photos kind of farther away from time to time, so it is nice to have a bit more reach there. But overall, everything else is very similar. I've not had any issues, but nothing kind of stands out either. It's the camera system you love and you know, and honestly, I think that works just fine. All right, see, now we got to talk about build quality too, because there are some differences, right? You know, if you haven't heard yet, the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max are built out of titanium. I don't know how you couldn't have heard yet, but if you haven't, there you go. And it's sort of it's a matte brushed texture, and it's new, right? We've never had an iPhone built out of titanium before, and yet I think it's a great decision. The glass on the back, it might just be me, but I really feel like the glass, like the matte glass on the back, almost feels different. Like it feels smoother than my iPhone 13 Pro. That could just be in my head. I have heard a lot of things about the phone overheating. That seems to be fixed for the most part. I personally have never experienced that. And I've also heard some things about the paint on the Pro models scratching off with falls and stuff. If you have a case, that obviously won't be an issue. And I typically don't use a case on my phone, and I have yet to have any real issues. So I'll let you know if anything else happens, but right now my phone is going strong. Alright, now we do have to talk about the bad. Obviously, you can click off the video now if you don't want to hear the bad, but if you are kind of here for a full review, here's kind of some things I don't like so much about the phone. And number one is USB-C. Now, don't get me wrong, I do love USB-C, but there are some inconveniences, right? Like a lot of my adapters, a lot of headphones, things like that just aren't working with this device because, you know, I've used Lightning all of my life, and so I have all these different adapters and things which work with Lightning, and you know, you kind of understand, right? Like you just have all these things that work with one thing, then we get USB-C, and now I have all these adapters that don't work. But you know, that becomes less of an issue once you buy all these adapters. It's just having to go and buy them is a little bit annoying. Now here's an issue I do have with the camera, and I know this was an issue with the iPhone 14 Pro too, I believe, but it's the minimum focus distance, right? And so that's when like you're using your main camera, and it just depending on how close it is to the subject, eventually it'll start getting kind of blurry because it's too close. Well, it's definitely gotten longer because with the iPhone 13 Pro, I mean, I could get like within 2, 3, 4 inches from the subject and it still be in focus without having to go into macro mode. But on this phone, I really can't get farther or closer than 6 inches before it starts getting kind of blurry and just not great. And like, I can totally switch into macro mode. It's just, I would like not to if possible, just purely because you do experience a drop in quality, which can be kind of annoying and just stuff like that. But overall, it's not been a huge issue. I mean, as long as it's lit well, you know, you can use macro mode just fine. All right, and lastly, I do want to talk about eSIM. Obviously, I did know that there was going to be some issues kind of going into setting up this phone with eSIM, just from things I've heard and stuff like that. But yeah, I had issues with setting up eSIM. It wouldn't work, and the annoying part was that when I was trying to transfer it, right, it kept saying the SIM wasn't supported, even though it was. And so then we contacted AT&T, and we got that all worked out. But eventually it just started working, so I don't know why it said in the beginning it wasn't supported. So if anyone could help me with that in the comments, that'd be awesome. But it did eventually work, right? And granted, it's a little annoying. I can't really switch SIM cards to other devices now. It's kind of just eSIM. It's kind of new, and you know, not a whole bunch of things support it well. However, nonetheless, I still do think it's pretty awesome the way it is going to be in the future. I wish some certain things would kind of be worked out a little bit better in the meantime. But I mean, yeah, that's really about it. I do hope you guys did enjoy this video. I know this one's longer. I'm trying new stuff. As you can see behind me, I do have a green screen. Well, you can't see the green, but you know, I just wanted to try a different background. It might not be pretty, but hey, I'm trying to figure these things out kind of as we go. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, as it helps me out a ton. And I hope y'all are looking forward to more, because I'm going to be making more. Anyways, bye guys.